So, Hare Krishna viewers, both on Zoom and YouTube, welcome for ISKCON Seshadripuram's Outpost ISKCON West Sunday evening Bhakti Sadan program. So, as usual, we will continue with the Bhagavad Gita class now. We had completed up to 5.21 last week. So, now let's take up 5.22 now. I'm just putting the website for the verse. Give me a minute. Okay, sorry for the delay. We'll share the screen. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 22nd verse. Yehi samparsha jaboga dukkayonaya evate adi antavantah kaunteya na teshu ramate buddhaha. Yehi samparsha jaboga dukkayonaya evate adi antavantah kaunteya na teshu ramate buddhaha. ये हि संपर्श जाभोगा दुःख योनय एव ते आदि अंतवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधाः. Word by word meaning. Ye, those, he, certainly, samparshaja, by contact with the material senses, bhogaha, enjoyments, dukkha, distress, yonayaha, source of, eva, certainly, they are, adi, beginning, anta, end, vantaha, subject to, kaunteya, O son of Kunti, na, never, teshu, in those, ramate, takes delight, buddhaha, the intelligent person. Translation. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ramante yogino anante satyanande chidatmani iti rama pade nasu pade nasau param brahmabi diyate. Ramante yogino anante satyanande chidatmani iti rama pade nasu param brahmabi diyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also 5.5.1 it is stated, Nayam deho deha bhajam nriloke kashtam kaman arhate vid bhujam ye tapodivyam patraka yena sattvam shuddhyed yasmath brahma saukyam tvi anantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penance in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the cause of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jeevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vranda Maneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. That's it. So let's read the translation once more. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So this is in continuation of the subject matter where in the previous sloka it talks about such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. And even the previous one. A person who neither rejoices upon receiving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is bewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. So this is all about a person who's actually trying to understand the self, which means who's in the process, or someone who's actually come to this point of understanding I am not the body. So he is completely in a different plane. He is not limited by what these bodies can give. He can get something much higher than what is available within the sphere of the bodily experiences. Um, Now, in that context, here again talks about that intelligent person. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses, O son of Kunti. Such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. See the choice of words here. See, he says, an intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery. And then he says, the source of misery are actually which are perceived as pleasures. That's why he's saying, which are due to contact with the material senses, O son of Kunti. Such pleasures have a beginning and end. He's talking about misery, but he's saying we are getting actually pleasure in the material world, but then they are actually miseries. And why such pleasures are considered misery? Because they have a beginning and an end. And therefore, if you are wise, you will not delight in them. Just see very, very powerful words. How Krishna just concisely put it in so many, simple words in that battlefield. One has to be very intelligent to understand why you are talking about, will not take part in misery. Yeah, no, I'm actually taking part in pleasure only, Baba. Why you are talking about misery? So he is saying that pleasure is actually misery. And he's also giving reason why that pleasure is a misery, because it is also going to end. It has a beginning and an end. And more importantly, this is impermanent because it is stemming from the bodily platform, which is perishable. Because he has given a long class on what you are. You are not the body. And if you are relying on that body and then putting all your eggs in that basket of a bodily experience, then such person is very foolish. Right? He will be, and here this beautiful verse is also given, right? From Padma Purana. Ramante yogino anante satyanande chid atmani iti rama pade nasau param brahmadi vidiyate. Now this is very important. The definition of Lord Rama is given incidentally. I did not, incidentally this is actually coming up from what I spoke earlier before we started the class about Lord Rama being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Has got nothing to do with this material existence and how so-called gurus are trying to defend Rama from a human platform, So, but here Rama, the definition of Rama is given here. The mystic derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth. Rama is absolute truth. And therefore, the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. That means that personality called Rama, who we think is a human being, who was trying to, as I know, the definition given by this great guru was also that, he was a failure all through his life. That, at a very young age, he suffered a lot. And then, he somehow got married at the age of 17 or something, and then he was thrown into a forest, and there he was, poor fellow, he was struggling there, and then his wife was also stolen. No? So that kind of a commentary on the whole. So if Rama is the supreme personality of Godhead, but here we are trying to equate him to a mortal and trying to highlight some few mortal characteristics of this personality called Rama, and trying to say, that is why we worship him, because he is also a great man. You know why he is so great? Because he had this value system in him. But what we don't realize is, whatever the Lord says is the actual value system. What is value system according to us is all complete nonsense. What he says is actually dharma. So we are trying to define that based on our value system. How foolish it is. So when the Lord is there, he says this is what is right, this is what is wrong. That's all. There's no question of debate beyond that, because he is Adi Purusha. There's nothing beyond him. He is absolute truth. If our perception is something slightly wrong, something different, we may say something is wrong with me, not with Rama. Right? I am not able to get it. I need to become more stronger in my understanding, so that I will be able to understand it. Not that I will start putting Rama in the court and then trying to judge him based on my my perception of right and wrong, right? So this is very important. So here, beautiful verse here. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth in the personality of Godhead is also known as Rama. So Rama means one who gives absolute, infinite pleasure potency. And now in this verse, what is it said that the intelligent person actually does not engage his senses and try to derive pleasure. Means, again, the point I was trying to make is, when we are actually a spirit soul, like you just take this example, the spirit soul, I quoted it elsewhere also, I don't know. Now the spirit soul is, the definition is also given, it is 100,000, like if you were to take the tip of the hair and divide it by 100, and then each of the part you take one part and then divide it by one more 100. So it's like 100,000 the tip of the hair. So what is the tip will be the last atom. What is known to us in the hair. You take that and then you divide it by 10,000 times, then that is the size of the soul. This is the actual you and I. Now you imagine the power of that you or I. That soul, if it is sitting inside a body of a human, let's say inside me, its power is actually limited to the point of this 5 feet or 7 feet, where I can spread this consciousness only within this body. But imagine that same soul is actually encaged within a small microcellular organization, or rather, for example, an amoeba or something. That is also a living being, right? Or any of the small microscopic living organism. Now, that soul's power is limited to that small body, which is actually microscopic. And the same soul, if you put it inside a shark or a whale, not a shark, a whale. A whale, I don't know, sometimes, they put some elephant as a small portion of a whale, like, it's seen like that. It can contain maybe 10, 15 elephants you can transport in a whale. Such a big animal, 40 feet, I don't know, 1 or 2 stories height. This is a big whales are there. Now, that is also activated by that one small unit of soul, which is also activating that small microorganism or a human being or a whale. And again, the power that it can generate, whatever, it's all. So if you see, but inside that microbe real body, it cannot perform the function of how it can function from a whale's body or from a human body. But it's the same soul, because tomorrow we already know this, right? This transmigration of soul is the basic lesson in spirituality. That that energy that is within that body is the same as the energy that is within this other body, but it's limited by the body, not by the capacity of that soul. So that's the point that we need to understand. We are not this body, and therefore our capacity is not limited to this body. So if someone is able to understand that, you suddenly become very much empowered. You are actually very, very powerful personality, like you and I and whoever. But we are trying to limit ourselves to this body, and then trying to maximize whatever this body can give within this senses that we have, and try to enjoy that. And by and large, lot of times it is defeat also. A lot of times we are not able to get what we want. Then that leads to a huge lamentation. But why we are curtailed to think that this body is so limited, I'm not able to do it. But if in another body I can do it, like I wanted to become a great cricketer or whatever, I cannot. But in another body like Sachin Tendulkar, another Atma is able to do that, right? So I'm equally capable. It's just that I have not tried enough. It's like that. But the soul is same, be it in the prime minister or the president of the biggest nation in this world, or someone who's again a micro DL. The energy which is inside is the same. The choice of body is the problem, right? But one who understands this body is limiting, and I don't want to be taking part in this kind of a outlook which is based on the bodily performance. That is huge intelligence. Then he is able to transcend this bodily feature and able to live in the spiritual strata. That is the point that is being mentioned. And if you are looking more into the bodily concept of life, naturally, like in this material world, nothing is shashvata, nothing is permanent. So now if you have to look at a success, I know you would have all also seen this, heard this, even seen practical situations where some people who are very, very successful in their life, right? Very successful, like when they walk, the whole world turns around to see them. When their car goes, everybody runs after them. We have seen many superstars, big politicians, sports personalities. But then it also has that fate that after some point in time, the glamour in that person is lost. Like glamour, it's not just about the beauty. It's about if you are a great, your skill is gone. If you are a sports person, or if your mass attracting power is gone. If you are a film star or a politician, whatever. And then when you walk, nobody really bothers. We have seen such people. I've heard many stories like that of, particularly from the film world, some people who, after their sunset days, then they are in some railway station or somewhere where, there's nobody even bothering to recognize them, And for such people, it is such a huge problem. They cannot handle it because they are used to everybody seeing them, cheering them wherever they are, the kind of josh they have when they are being recognized. And suddenly, if you are not recognized, it becomes such a big depression for them. There have been many people who have even committed suicide because they cannot handle this big success. Now, so the problem is because this happiness had a beginning, but that same happiness also has an end. And that happiness is all derived out of this body, which is, it could be either mind intelligence or physical body. Like, it could right from the physical body looks to Sometimes it may be our intelligence which is making us so powerful, or it could be our skill which is making us all powerful, which is deriving out of a combination of body and intelligence, and application of mind, all that. So mind, intelligence, and body, all of them, gross body, all of them are actually considered body. But all of this happiness was derived through any of this, either on the mental plane through the mind and intelligence, or on the physical plane with my physical body. I try to get that pleasure. But because body is God, is not permanent, because body has its limitation, anything, we have discussed this in some earlier chapters, how there are different phases of the body, right? A body actually is born, and then it grows for some time, and then it stabilizes, and then it gives byproducts, and after giving byproducts it starts dwindling, and then it finally perishes. So this is the cycle of the body. So at some point in the cycle, depending on what where you are seeking the pleasure from, like if you are a sportsman, some sports require you have to be very young, beyond a point, then at your 25, 30, you have to retire from that sport. But in some other place, only when 30, you are considered basic mature to enter in that sport, or any other field, some other field maybe. So that is relative. But at the end of the day, when that maturity of that particular requirement in that field is lost, then we are out of the race. Then that happiness, it cannot continue to drive that same happiness in that person, because he was reliant on that particular physical attributes, which is no more with that person, and therefore that gives lamentation, particularly if you can't handle. That's why they say in sports personalities, they will try to cope try to help them to um, like in a way it's spirituality, but they try to put it more, they try to keep them not distracted from their popularity and things like that, right? And if you see many, and I have also seen great personalities, very very they reached like to the star in the first few. I'm talking about I watched cricket a lot, so I've seen some young boys, like maybe 16, 17, they suddenly shoot up to the international level, and then they perform magic in the first 2, 3 tests and things like that, and then that's all, hell breaks loose. They suddenly become so popular. Wherever they go, they are just put up on a very high pedestal, and then that fellow is not able to handle it, and then he became a major failure after a few matches. 1 year down the line, gone, and then you can see him sitting in the commentary box. Well, while his seniors are still playing there in that thing. This kind of things. So what's happening here? It's just that we are not able to continuously enjoy the happiness that we derive from material, from the body or from the material things. It could be body, it could be our car, it could be our high-tech games that we enjoy playing, or whatever. It could be relationships. Sometimes we look for something in a relationship. So it's all going hanky-dory, very nice, so wonderful, but suddenly something happens, there's a breakup, and then that's all. It goes down so fast, like someone falling off from the sky. So problem is that attraction we had based on the body, mind, and intelligence is not permanent. And then when we see the other side of it, or when that permanent, what we thought is the best that we will have, and then that suddenly goes off our hands, then we are into a kind of a mess. Now the intelligent persons, therefore, are very very clear. They understand, yes Baba, sometimes it may give me a lot of kicks. Like kicks means I'm saying like Josh, but I better not get fooled into falling a trap into that. So they keep completely aloof from the indulgence that is coming out of bodily experiences. So this is very important. And so does that mean, can we not be happy at all, Prabhu? There are some nice experiences that I am having, Are you saying I should cut off from all that? If someone is cracking a joke, should I not laugh? Should I just keep a mum and say, oh, this is all material? You know, so people can have these kind of things in my mind. Let's be practical here. I am doing well. Do you say I should not therefore buy things which are giving pleasure? Right? So these kind of questions will come. The point is we need to understand that these things are not permanent, that knowledge is important. And it depends on which stage of we are in this journey of this understanding. So in the initial stages, we can have this first theoretical understanding. When we are so much hankering about something, just think about it practically, realistically. This theory is there. If you want to call it theory, yes, this theory is there. That this will also come to pass, right? Everybody has some experiences in their life, unless you are a very small child. But beyond that, everybody has some experiences. That I got what I wanted, but then it didn't really get me what that same pleasure over a period of time. There is this economic theory, right? What is this? The pleasure you get out of the 10th one is not the same as the first one. Not pleasure, maybe the returns or benefits. I don't know. One of the theories in economics we have studied that. Any of you remember? No. So it's
law of diminishing marginal utility.
Law of diminishing marginal utility, right? So you first time you experience it feels so great, but the same thing you take second time, it is like okay, nice. The third time, fourth time, you keep on winning awards. The fifth time you go on the stage, you are chalo, yaar, give me, let me go. I have something else important to do, right? First time you are like really so. So what does it tell? It's the same experience, right? Getting it, but then beyond a point, you don't feel the same pleasure of getting that. That means what? This is impermanent. It doesn't give you the same pleasure. But when you talk about spiritual pleasure, that actually keeps on multiplying into tens and thousand millions, 10,000 times. Therefore, there is no point in time when we are in the spiritual strata that you feel, I should not use the word bored, because here it is like reduction of the pleasure. I would say it like that. The pleasure keeps increasing. There is no question of pleasure reducing. There is no question of boredom. It is pleasure, but that pleasure will only keep increasing, because in the spiritual platform, we are the enjoyed, and it is very clearly said, when you are enjoyed, you get the enjoyment. So, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. That means our position is to serve the Lord, but when we are serving that Purusha, we actually enjoy. So, that means if we really have to enjoy, we should connect to the correct plug point. Otherwise, we are connecting to the wrong plug point, so sometimes you may get a shock. Right? Sometimes, you do not know where to connect to get that same pleasure. So we connect to the wrong things, and that leads to misery in due course of time. What we initially think is a pleasure is later a misery. For example, Prabhupada sometimes use this example of a camel. See, the camel, if you see, it will eat that thorny cactuses and things like that. That cactus is actually so much thorn is there, we can't even touch it. But it will reach out and then it eat it. Cactus or even other, these thorny plants. Prabhupada says, when it starts chewing it, blood actually comes from the tongue. Blood comes from the tongue. And this fellow enjoys that leaf mixed in that blood, and he thinks this is so great. So it's a very strong example that Prabhupada used to give. That we don't even realize this is pain, but we are thinking that is pleasure. I mean, there are hundreds of personal examples we can see in our own life. We chase something so badly. Sometimes we know that is wrong, but still we try to somehow try to get it and enjoy it. So how foolish such thinkings are. Only if we are able to understand that, the power of you, the power of you means the power of the soul, power of me, the power of the soul within me. And then look at it from that point. If you look at this thing of what I am trying to do here. So this last thing was the highest pleasure in this is in human experience is the sex pleasure. Like in this last verse, it was there when I was reading the translation. I saw that quote, which was there. The Prabhupada that quoted that verse of one of the. This verse is there, right? Here, I will just share it with you. I'm not going to go over that entire verse because you would have heard it last week, and Achyuta Prabhu would have discussed this. But to highlight again in the context of what we are discussing here, if you are Yamunacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, and Yamunacharya, we all know, is one of the acharyas in the Sri Sampradaya. He says, I will just read the translation. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasures in him. Whenever I think of sex pleasure, I split at the thought and my lips curl with distaste. So that means, see, it's not about just this sex pleasure, that's taken as an example to say, like, of all the pleasures, this is very, everybody can quickly relate to this. But then, so that way, any other pleasure that we are hankering, if we are able to actually understand it from the context of this intelligent man here, then we can actually quickly step back and say, I'm not really. So it also helps us at various levels. At a beginning stage, it helps us to handle problems. Like, okay, if I am supposing I don't get what I want, or I lose what I have, in whatever, what I have means in terms of something which I'm so much going after it, and then it doesn't come, or I have it for some time and then it is gone. Any of these things, how do we handle, right? These are things which are very, very, this knowledge of what you are and, how this journey goes on, and, there's nothing called, this is so many times we give this example, right? You live once, experience it, you live once, therefore, just do it, like, because this is only once you will do. These are all wrong theories, because that is coming from Western philosophies which do not have an understanding of a soul concept. It means they think I live only once, this is the only experience I have, and therefore I should. That is because their philosophy is to that level. But we have much evolved philosophy which talks about you being a permanent feature and you being caught up in this body only again for a temporary point in time, after which the body will be lost, but you will continue your journey. So it's not that you are not going to experience something if you missed it or whatever. You will get it for sure. It may be in this body or it may be in another body, but that doesn't matter, because that matters. You is a permanent entity which just continue. Like, how does it matter? You miss out on, for example, an ice cream. In the previous station, you are in a train, and then suddenly you see that ice cream wala coming, and then the guard signals green, and then the train starts moving, and then that fellow keeps running. You are putting your hand out, and that ice cream wala is trying to run to you. Then, by the train picks up speed, you move on. But then there is this next platform where another ice cream wala is going to be there. You are going to get it. It's just a matter of another 15-20 minutes or half an hour or whatever time that train takes to get to the next platform. So you won't lament. You will laugh. Oh, he was coming hard. I tried, but somehow I couldn't get it. You will laugh. You will think about this. You being fooled. You couldn't get it, and you will laugh it away, right? Anyway, I will not miss it in the next train. I will get it in the next platform. You will think like that, and you will work towards it. So like that, our life is not that, we are just living once, and therefore, this is the only way, and if I don't get it, I will commit suicide, rest of the life, I will be in a, depression, or whatever people try to give me some kind of other logic, I will not accept it. No, this is the thing. Well, on the extreme side. But even on a normal plane, right, we lose our mood on a day-to-day basis on so many things which happens, which is not the way we want it, but it happens in a different opposite direction, or in a way in which we may not want it the best. Then we immediately lose our mind. Oh, why it happened like this? And the whole day I am like this. My mood is gone, right? Oh, this happened like this happened like this happened like this. There are other opportunities coming, which is nice to interact, nice to share, nice to do so many things, but we are ignoring all of that and continuing to live in that past which happened, which cannot be corrected from this point of view, because that's gone. You look forward to another experience. How do I do it? How do I get things better? How do I do things in a better way? How do I make things even better? So if you're, so it's where you are, right, in this journey. But the ultimate point here is I should never be in the bodily platform, and that is more logical. If you see all these, in India we have had millions and millions of great personalities. Like when I say great, I'm not talking about the material achievers. I'm talking about the self-realized people. India is the land for that. This is the land from the entire universe, or at least if you look at the entire earth, if you can spot out these people who are seekers, it is more in India. More, no, everywhere you will see more, these people seekers. In other places, you will hardly find a seeker. There will be enjoyer, means material enjoyer. Everyone will be material enjoyer because they don't have a concept at all. But in India, we have every nook and corner, every small house. He need not be a big spiritualist or anything. But you see a guy on the train, he will actually understand this very nicely. He will, he will be squeezed. This guy, I think, chalta hai, it's okay. What's there? If you see, that's the. I know. Don't. Someone may say, "Oh, don't be pessimistic." That we need to grow as a country. Why are you flock of sheep? No, I'm not going there. I'm not talking about that. But the mindset of how you take things, that's what I am talking about. We need to be very mindful of this fact that I am a soul and I have nothing to do with this body. Therefore, how do I learn to live in that sphere of consciousness? Now, again, here talking about Radhama, let's deal a little bit into the spiritual form of things spoken a lot on this material platform. On this soul platform, how is it that it gives us this happiness? That is something which we need to experience. That's why these experiences are not it's not theory all the time, right? We need to experience that to see. Sometimes certain things can be explained in theory. Certain things have to be taken to the lab and then experimented, and then we can actually experience it. Theory will become firmed up in our mind because we have experienced it by an experiment like that. Similarly, when we take up devotional life, that's why Prabhupada said devotional service. He never said, Prabhupada never said, devotion means, he never said, okay, therefore you all simply close your eyes and, do a kind of sitting and meditating all the time on something which you cannot relate to, or you simply all the time offering dhupa, deepa to the Lord. Yes, that is also important. It's, worship of the deities is most important. Particularly when you are a grahastha, you need to actually worship the deities. That is very important. But beyond that, Prabhupada, that is also a service, like you're offering dhupa, deepa to the Lord. So I say, as you progress, like Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari, it is about engaging in an activity which is serving the cause of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is service. So if for example, when our Prime Minister calls for action from the citizens of the country, when we engage in the activity in which the Prime Minister is engaging us, this country is benefiting, right? So like when this COVID was there, so he asked, all people to go and help out to others. You take care of people who are not having food and things. It's not like government can go and do it everywhere. Then when the Prime Minister says this, then every citizen tries to, whoever can in a position to help out, if they reach out to many people, then if you see, the country is completely benefited, and you see very positive vibrations everywhere. The have-nots are not really struggling. They are able to appreciate the help by the others, and that mood itself is very vibrant, positive, and people are able to move forward. So like this, when we are acting for the purpose of the Lord, then our engagement gives us very nice feel for ourselves and naturally to the others whom we are serving. And that engagement is actually in the service of the Lord. It is not always sitting inside the temple. It is also outside the temple. But the mood has to be that, I am actually acting in the service of the Lord. So we see that. So therefore, sometimes I may not have a lot of, aptitude for simply sitting inside a temple and offering. The deities is as good as the Lord, but in case I don't, I'm someone who's quite new into this. I feel okay, I'm there, I like it, it's nice, but then I'm not able to fully concentrate on deity worship. Fine, no problem. You see what is your ability, what is your interest. Apply that interest in the service of the Lord. Then you are spiritualizing your desires. So how can I do this transformation? So you continue to do the activity, but now that activity does not become a limiting factor. That does not have this law of diminishing, marginal, that Prabhu mentioned, right? Law of diminishing returns. That will not be there. In fact, it will only multiply. So like, for example, if you like to speak, sometimes, I don't know, some people, they are good orators, but since they do so many orations, it becomes like, okay, one more I have to do like that. But if you are talking about the Lord, everything will be so interesting. Everything will be a new experience. It's not like, oh, this is, I have already done this. You never feel that. I have never personally, because that's an experience for me. I have never personally felt. I may have dealt with each verse, at least 4 or 5 times, some of them. But then you never feel, oh, I have done the same thing, what is this going to be different? When each time when I'm able to speak, I'm enriched by whatever experiences I have had from the previous time I did it. So I may be able to share more things like that. So it's never ending. It actually keeps on expanding. It keeps on expanding. That's what it is said, right? That pleasure keeps on expanding. You can take it for, there are some people who make deity dresses, right? You never get satisfied but that, I made a good dress. You will always feel, next one you are trying to do, you will feel how I can do this better. Or someone who's doing a book distribution, because when you engage with people to convince them to take a book and try to understand, there are, if you're doing it in India, it's 1.3 billion different opportunities you have. I'm saying, I don't know how many is the population of this country, but then it is ever expanding. For example, Ananta Sesh said, right, he has 1,000 hoods and so many tongues, but he says, I'm not able to actually feel satisfied in narrating the Lord's pastimes with all those 1,000 tongues. It's not possible for me to complete it. It's so nice. I keep on saying like that. So that applies to all devotional services to the Lord. So whatever it is that we can do, the bliss that you get is multiplied. Nobody will ever come back crying, oh, I did this devotional service and I feel so very, today very withdrawn. I feel depression. I feel like committing suicide. I've never heard it. Someone who's doing devotional service. You can see all the blissful faces. They are so happy, so much, in whatever service they are capable of. So you have to engage in the right kind of service that is more aligned to your nature. Then it will be also very helpful in the beginning. But as you progress, it's not like, I will only do this service. Whatever service you do, you are actually fixed up very nicely, and your mood is also in that, I'm doing this for the Lord. It doesn't matter about my abilities. So it's no more a question of my ability or inability. It's about the Lord's wish and my desire. And as I keep doing it, the Lord will make it happen. So this is there. So with this, I will stop here on this verse. If anybody want to add, anybody want to share, anybody wants to have a question or any, some clarity, please. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Maybe just a comment saying, the analogy of the Western world looking at this as just one life, and you just got one life, and you're going to enjoy it, versus you're pretty much unlimited life. You've got to have you just going to experience again and again.
Yes.
Very very beautiful way of putting your thought of say you didn't get the ice cream in this particular station, but there are other stations that you will definitely. It's a matter of this time, right?
Yes.
That perception of knowing that this is not your end station.
Yes.
Right. There are many more stations to come. Gives you a totally different perspective about life. Right. So when you take away that this was my last station, then everything else opens up in life. Right. So I thought that was very, very beautiful. So thank you very, very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Nice, Prabhu. This is very important. So many times, Prabhu. Sometimes, we get into a bad mood because we missed something, right? Then you miss so many other things which come your way. Why? But if you have this orientation that everything will come to pass, right? And nothing is that whatever I want, I will still get it, because the cause-effect relationship is always there. The endeavor is there. There has to be a result. You will have to keep on. You have to get it. No, there's no way it will not come to you. But then if you are putting a boundary to it, then that's a problem. But that is what we are being taught. So very nice way to understand this. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any other thoughts?
Dandavat pranams. It
Yes,
was a
Prabhu.
very
Amrita
nice
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
verse.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. A very interesting and very nice, powerful verse which you discussed today. So, entire Bhagavad Gita is very important, but just that sometimes some verses are striking at certain moments. So, very true and very valid verse. Thanks, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Subraya.
I also have the same realization what our Rohit Prabhu said. The example you are given, the train example, and if small unpleasure things happens, we are losing the remaining whole day. So we are missing other opportunities. That example also wonderful, Prabhu. This was very nice. We can easily correlate and we can understand. Really wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Dandavat
Hare
pranam.
Krishna. Dandavat pranam, Prabhu.
Yeah, that example you had given, that camel which chews, that cactus, and even including, the blood.
Yes.
So with that context, I remember Prabhupada's example. He was asking disciples who built this, where the snake lives. That what do you call that? It is built by ant. Not ant. Initially, it was built by ant. Yeah, initially. Then that hole was chased out these ants and taken by rats. And then these snakes chased these rats are eaten those things, and then it occupies that particular place. So being a Vaishnava, you don't get into all this hard labor like this. Be like that snake. Not for taking somebody else's property like that. See, anyway I am going to live. Anyway I am going to survive. So don't get into all this hard laboring into, because it is temporary. And as you mentioned in the beginning, it is temporary, and there is a beginning and there is an end for it. It is okay for living, but that is not my, you say many times, that is not my, cup of coffee. That is not my, prime, focus. So my purpose is solved, I have done with that. Not getting into that kind of, hard laboring. And another example, Prabhupada, had given like similar line. And when he was preaching in Africa, who is feeding, all these elephants, lakhs and lakhs of elephants are there in Africa. Are we feeding, or our government is, feeding? Like that he was asking. So audience were, laughing. So Lord arranged, already. So why you are getting into this hard labor and, thinking so much attached and caught up with this, material identities and, material way of thinking and perceiving things like that.
Yeah.
So, yes, Prabhu. You can.
Yeah, so nice. So basically there here, Prabhupada, those examples, we can actually relate to the point of if you keep on chasing this material desires all your life, right, and wasting the human form of life. Form of life is meant for self-realization. But then, if people are not able to understand that, they are all the time trying to satisfy their senses. So even when you are on 80 and 90, you keep on trying to satisfy your senses. Yours are your extensions of your body. When then my son, then so many fathers, they have retired, they have done their life, but then they are all the time talking about their son. No, my son is this, my son is like that, my son is like, and then they keep on working hard for the son. And then the grandson, right? But then we don't realize I have very little time to go, now time is coming for my innings to close. And what do I do to actually secure my journey into the next station? I don't work on that aspect. So that's where it said, don't keep chasing only your material dreams. Just try to say, okay, these things will anyway come because we understand karma. Like, what I have sowed, I will reap, I will get it. But I don't want to keep on into the cycle of again and again sowing, and then I need to come back to reap it. So stop this material activity. Anyway, you will be fed. So it's sometimes in Tamil they say, vidai vidaitavan vinay aruppan, like that, So I don't know, maybe that's not a good example. The Lord is actually allowed us to be here. He will take care. He will provide what is needed for you. Therefore, don't labor so hard for your material pleasures like that. But why don't you start this journey of self-realization, understanding the the purpose of life and how you can actually elevate ourselves from this bodily concept to the spiritual platform. In that sense, those examples are very wonderful. Thank you very much,
Prabhu, this is another doubt actually. Today, in temple, one devotee was telling, devotee was, they are devotees, but they are buying, BMW car like that. I told just, see, though it is BMW car, you use it for, devotional service like that. Is it correct what I shared, Prabhu? But the devotee is not convinced.
Yeah, so see, the thing is, for example, when Prabhupada used to go to the US, these devotees there used to get, those days, Ford, the best of cars will be going to the airport and then picking up Prabhupada. So when these devotees, the newspaper people, right, the reporters, they are immediately pouncing upon this thing. You call yourself a saint, renounced order, but you see, you get the kind of cars that you are getting, the kind of things. So Prabhupada said, yes, I need to be given such big cars. Well, the initial comment is very, what is this? He's saying like that. Then he said, actually, see, in this Vedic tradition, the spiritual master is supposed to be seen as equivalent to the Supreme Lord. So, will you give an ordinary third-rated car to the Supreme Lord when you are to pick up the Supreme Lord? You will give whatever is best that you have. So, in that sense, here their mood is that they are receiving the Lord. Therefore, they consider me his representative, equal to him, and therefore they give. But I accept it on behalf of the Lord, but I personally do not derive any pleasure in sitting in that car and thinking, I have all these facilities. Like, it doesn't matter to me. And he will also, his life was like that. He never sat and enjoyed anything in his life. He will be like 3 hours, 2 hours, he will sleep. That's all. The rest of the time, he will be translating. He will be taking very, austere prasadam. Like, on his birthday, like Vyasa Puja day, there will be 500 items made. But it's not like, Prabhupada will sit and, okay, therefore I will have, eat something, next day I will have a dysentery. No. He will maybe, because you have offered to me, I will just take one pinch from that and have it, and that's it, So you understand, but he will give away everything to everybody else. We have seen Prabhupada's life. He was such a huge success world over at that point in time. It's not today. I'm talking about, maybe, in the 60s and 70s, he is such a huge success. But he never used anything for himself. All his, like whatever he wrote, all this money came from the thing. Right? He had royalty of all these books, right? And huge money, everything is coming. But then all of that was used for ISKCON to develop. He never took anything to say, okay, this is my money. He never did it. If he had done it, today he will be one of the richest men, or his children will be the richest men in the world today. But he never, all his ability, all the, what you call the labor that he put in, all that money which came because of that labor, he built temples, he used it for all over the world, for all the devotees like that. So the point is, you can give the best to the spiritual master, to Krishna. That way it is fine. So if you have to buy the best for yourself, again it's all about how you are able to use it. So that's important. If you how you look at the whole thing is important. Like, do you look at that BMW as a pride matter for you? Then you better buy yourself the lowest car. But if that is not a big pride for you, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a material thing. So it's a question of where is that desire stemming from. Like, for example, there are devotees, right? There are devotees who are very rich. They may not even think too much into it. For them, that BMW or 1 crore or 70 lakh may be ordinary money for them. For them, that's a natural thing to buy. But if I am struggling, but I am buying a BMW just for my prestige, it's another thing. But there are devotees who are really rich. Like, it's like buying a normal car for him, because that is the brand which he's been living all his life. It doesn't make a big thing for him. For him, it's okay. It doesn't matter. So we cannot judge like that. But how does he views it? Whatever you have, how do you view that thing? That's important. For that matter, if I view a simple thing as a very prestigious thing, then that I will not even have. For example, I'm now, as I'm speaking, I'm remembering Radhanath Maharaj. He had this, what do you call this, mouth organ. Right? He used to travel from America to India. He traveled, and one companion he had was this mouth organ. So he used to play it all, nicely. He was very happy playing that. Then he suddenly realized, why is this? I am so much attached to this mouth organ. It's a thing. He threw it away finally into some river somewhere like that. So it's as simple as a mouth organ, right? It's not a BMW car. It's a mouth organ. Yeah? You can just put it in a packet and forget it. But then if that is creating a problem, why? That way. But if that BMW did not create a problem, so how you look at it in your mind, that's the point. That's how I see it. I don't know, there may be better ways of looking at it. The idea is how to be not attached to the material things. Second thing is, how can I utilize these material things in the service of Krishna? I have seen many times when I walk, I go to a place and I try to preach, people give me less importance. But if I go in a nice car and get down there, people immediately receive me very well, and whatever I say, they look at me like this and hear. You would have experienced it yourself also. And I'm not talking about a BMW that I have or anything like that. But then, okay, I'm using that in the service of the Lord. That way. Like, today everything, Prabhupada said, right? You build nice temples. He said, we don't need big temples. We can live by the side of the river and eat humble things. We don't need, we simply need a kutir. But for the public, that is the, when you have a nice opulent temple only, they will come into that temple. Prabhupada said that. So why ISKCON temples are so opulent today, marble, this, that, so many things. Why is it required to get bhakti? You need marbles to have bhakti or anything like that. You have a simple temple. But Prabhupada said, these people will not come. You give it in a grand way, they will get attracted. And once they come, they will see the philosophy, they will be happy. Then they will forget the marble temple, they will look at the philosophy. Like that. So you use it like that. So sometimes you can use opulence also nicely. Like that. But it's all a question of how you see it. If you are taking so much loan to buy that car, then it's maybe it's not for using for the service, it's using for our own prestige or whatever. So you have to introspect it on that point on why we need that item and what's our comfort level. Then we can take it up. I don't know if I fully answered it. It's very deep.
Yes. No, you have narrated very nicely, and I can understand that perfect that answer for that. That is important. That what is the purpose of that person only for the show of sake? If that is the case, then it is different. As normally is affordable.
The measure is tomorrow. If you don't have that, are you comfortable? Right? That's the point. Tomorrow, if I have to go in a lower car than a BMW, do I sulk? Do I make a big issue? That's the measure. If I don't care, I'm okay to hop into a simple, I don't want to name any brand, then it will become like, I'm saying some brand is inferior. But I take a 2 grades below car comes and then I look up here and there. I just simply don't bother. I simply get into that car, then I'm comfortable. Right? That's a measure.
Yes, Prabhu. I got it.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, nice discussions. Okay, it's 8:20 now. So shall we call it a day for today's program? Okay, thank you all for joining, and my apologies if I've gone overboard with some things. Sometimes it happens because of over enthusiasm. Hare Krishna. Forgive me if I hurt anything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. That Yamunacharya Prabhu.
Thanks,
Which Sampradaya, Prabhu? You mentioned
Yamunacharya is from Sri Sampradaya, Prabhu.
Sri Sampradaya.
Yes. Like Ramanujacharya's guru.
Yamunacharya.
Ramanujacharya's guru. So very powerful personality to be the guru of Ramanujacharya.
One more person, Ishwa Prakasha or someone.
Yadav Prakash. Yadav Prakash.
Prabhu?
Yadav Prakash, okay. I think.
Okay. Who is he, Prabhu?
I think there was one who was not a proper guru in one sense. So, like, who was actually envious of Ramanujacharya, something like that was there. I don't know if that is the guru. So, he had, like,
yeah, okay.
So, that was there. So he, that was, I think, if I remember right, his own guru tried to kill him. So you don't know what is a guru. So whether that's a real guru, you don't know. But because of envy, but then he actually got a proper guru later. So like that.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru name, Prabhu?
Ishwarapuri.
Ishwara?
Ishwarapuri.
Ishwarapuri, okay.
Yes. That's from the Madhva Sampradaya. I mean, in that line.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks,
Thank
Prabhu.
You, Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees.